I have a very special job tonight to talk about a very special person. Like many of you here tonight, I knew of this special person before I actually knew him. I grew up in Sydney and was at the SCG in 1986 when the Swans beat Essendon by 9 goals. I moved to Tasmania and I was in the stands at North Hobart Oval in 1992 when Essendon beat Fitzroy by 3 points. So it wasn't until 1997 that I actually met this person, this special person. That's when I moved to Melbourne to work with the Australian newspaper as a football writer. Both my sons barracked for Essendon, so I thought I'd impress them by interviewing this person, this special person, for a major feature. And boy, was there plenty to talk about. 4 premierships as a player, if you count the one in the VFA, and he certainly does. 4 premierships as a VFL, AFL coach. And probably even more importantly, a great advocate of sport for social change. Would you please welcome to the stage the winner of the 2006 Vic Sports Award for outstanding contributions to sport, my friend, your friend, football's friend, Australia's friend, Kevin John Sheedy. Gotcha, beauty. This family deserves a round of applause because they kept this secret. Do you remember our first meeting, Kev, at the Jack and Jill Cafe in Windy Hill?
I wouldn't have a clue.
It's been a great time working with you since then. In 1997, we've written thousands of columns, 4 books.
Free plug?
Free plug for the magazine. This magazine celebrates Kevin Sheedy's 50 years in senior football, going back to 1966 when he won a premiership in the VFA with Paran. On Christmas Eve this year, he's telling the family he's never going to forgive them again. On Christmas Eve this year, Kevin Sheedy turned 70. Tom and Irene Sheedy got an early Christmas present back in 1947. So let's forget the 0. Let's just go back to 7. And if you could talk to that addition to Tom and Irene's family, to that 7-year-old, What would you say to him now?
To my parents, or?
No, what would you, if you could talk to the 7-year-old Kevin Sheedy, what would you?
Oh, God. You guys have got me tonight. I've never ever. Well, look, I think that the best thing that happened to me at 7 was I met people, and I sold newspapers, put my age up and got a Herald job, and I think back to, that very early years after the war, which is 7, that makes it 1954, and we had the Olympics come out in 56, so I was inspired by a lot of people around that period, between Australian sporting legends, obviously Betty Cuthbert and Dawn Fraser, and then Richie Beno and those sorts of people. I didn't get where they were from, they were just fantastic people, and they actually led the way for me to dream that you could do something with your life in Australia, and that's probably what happened to me. And so,
well, you could look out of your school window and see the MCG being prepared for those Olympic Games, and that inspired you.
Well, it did. I mean, the MCG to me was something I was going to get involved with. I didn't realise I was going to be there for 370 games, but that was a bit of a dream. But I barracked for the Bombers then. I went to school in Richmond, St Ignatius, and those early days were very important for me. But the Australian sporting landscape was fantastic at that period. I mean, no one had any money, no one hardly had a car. Street kids, we had 45 kids in the street. So we could pick up teams, and we could play anything, Just give us a bat or a picket off the fence and a tennis ball. That's the way it was. But I wouldn't change it. Would never change it.
You came from a big family, and we can see that there's a big family here now. How important has family been to you throughout your life?
Well, my mother was a great woman. My dad died when I was a teenager, and Mum was left with 7 kids, and very inspirational woman. Of course, when you get along to think about having your own family, that took a bit of a while. I was very embedded into footy, and it was either cricket or footy, but they only pick 11 in cricket and they pick 20 in footy. So mathematically, it was a better option. As a matter of fact, they picked 14 people my height in 12 teams, but basically 168 opportunities, so it was a mathematical decision. But in the end, it was pretty good, and I can't believe this. I can't believe this.
Oh dear. Now, you're a great family man, and you've just paid tribute to your mum, but it seems from what I've just heard out in the green room that Irene didn't teach you how to cook, and I think Jess has got the lowdown. If you want to pass that microphone to Jess, she's going to tell us about your skills at the barbecue.
The barbecue. Well, we don't really let him get his hands near the barbecue. It's usually Mum's gig, actually, because Dad's just pretty horrendous when it comes to cooking. So we leave that for Mum. He's a pretty horrendous host. Mum has to look after all the guests and prepare everything, and Dad's menu's pretty basic: white bread with honey and cream. Quite an athlete's diet, I would imagine.
Thank you. I can just see the will being rewritten.
Well, obviously I never barbecued again, so that got me out of that job. But I like my gardening, but I'm not big on doing the barbecue.
Kevin, you've won all the premierships and coached in all the premierships, but your greatest contribution to Australian football is the changes you've brought in particularly the societal changes. As a young man, when did you realise that you could use sport to create the social changes that you've brought about?
Oh, look, I probably felt... I actually got a job with Richmond and the government, Victorian Vic Sport, which is quite amazing that I'm here at a Vic Sports night. But Brian Dixon had brought in... I don't know whether many people in the audience can remember Life Bennett around that period, or in the very early 70s. And Norm on the couch. And of course, we wanted to get things rolling, and so I left plumbing. I've been in the army for a couple of years, and by going around Victoria and meeting a lot of different people, I thought, well, there needs to be some changes, but you know, it's like any organisation that's large, it takes a hell of a long time. It doesn't matter whether it's government or banks or AFL or whatever it is, but by being on the road and meeting Australian people and Victorian people in particular, you get this feeling that when are they ever going to do something, sort of. That's what most Victorian and Australian people sort of say. But look, I think in the end, I felt that I'd never met Aboriginal people in Chapel Street, South Yarra. So when I went to do a lot of clinics around Australia, I just felt that there was another Australia out there. I had no idea about it. And I mean, the nuns and the brothers were very, very good to me. They made you think about people, and they made you think about your conscience, about if you got in a position where you ever could help society or life in general. They made you feel that way, about that you can contribute. And then I met Tom Hafey, obviously, and he was fantastic. When you see his record, it's frightening how good he was. I don't think he's ever been accredited with the leadership that he gave a lot of young men. So those early days were probably shaping a person who I didn't know I was going to be. I had no idea I could do things, but sport gave me that chance, and the people like you out there in the audience gave young people like myself that chance, and I thank you.
You talked about playing for 4 points overseas long before the AFL thought it was a good idea. You, as you said, you welcomed the Aboriginal people into football long before many others thought it was a good idea. So you look forward, you look a long way forward. Let's look forward and tell me what you think football's going to look like in 2030.
2030, I think we'll have about 10 countries playing. I think 2030. Well, it's not that far away, is it?
No, it's not.
I might actually be there. 2030, I think that we'll just have a better recognised opportunity for AFL overseas. We're going to have a first game for 4 points in China with Geraldine and I went up there about maybe 6 or 7 years ago to check the ground out with the Chinese officials. It's fantastic to see that it's going to be a 4-point game this year. Earlier this year I was in India, and there are so many kids in India that just don't have a chance of anything. I mean, the movie The Lion is classic, but so we had about 250 kids travel by train. If you wanted to equalise it to what it is in Australia, they travelled by train from Broome, Geraldton, Cairns and Perth just to play and try AFL by train. So we have no idea, but if we are smart, we can move our game quicker with the communications we have today than ever before. And we will try and achieve that in the next decade.
When you parted company with Essendon, we've got another word for it, haven't we, Geraldine? In 2007, you said then your greatest achievement in football. I remember you were asked the question in the media conference, what's your greatest achievement? And you pointed up to the ceiling almost and you said Adam Ramanuskis, because at that stage you and the club had got him through that awful illness that he had.
Well, his cancer was unexpected by all. And it's not just about winning games. I mean, I've lost over 200 games. That's 10 years going home losing. It's not a happy... Geraldine reminded me one night, you've had 8 hours of happiness. That's four premierships. I mean, women can be harsh, can't they? But I think in the end, it's about people. It's about fun. It's about, making the thing that always people don't want to talk about is what can we do better that we should have done earlier. Obviously we could write down the whole book on that, but Adam was just such a beautiful person, stricken right in the middle of his career. And of course, we made sure that he was going to be right. Same as Neil Danaher. Neil Danaher is one of the great stories, I think. Obviously, made a new own, probably raised 15 to 20 million people, $1 million for people of the future, that they can overcome that. So meeting young men that you can give them a clear passage to keep leading through some of the difficulties of our life and our society is very, very important. And it's just a game. Like it's like athletics, it's like, you know, badminton, golf, tennis. I mean, I look back and people that inspired me, I could write them down, and they are my mentors and they wouldn't even know it. So when you look at Yvonne Goolagong, the fantastic Aboriginal tennis player she was, and Herb Elliott, all these people, they make you grow, and that's the value of sport. And I have an opportunity to invite my first ever manager, he's 90 years of age, Jack Morgans, to a dinner later in the year. And he's my first ever manager at Prahran Footy Club, and he's still alive, and he's contributed his whole life to developing kids just like most of the people in every sport. And a lot goes into building what we have here in Victoria. We have a magnificent state, we have magnificent amenities. We've just got to make sure we fill them. And we're trying to achieve that.
Kevin, your contribution to sport has been outstanding. Congratulations on winning this 2000.
This will be the last time we're going to be friends with you, I can assure you. I'm not feeling good about this. I have prepared to stand up there and be interviewed tonight, and I had a million things I wanted to talk about, and you've just shot me, and I'm not going to forgive you ever. None of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Kevin Sheedy.